Hey, this is Vito from Jersey. How you doing? Up in my room here, sitting down. Anyway, I was listening to this one. A lot of these Christians, right? They give their testimony about, how they were, and they have these amazing stories about like the transformation that the Lord did for them in their life. And I was thinking about myself. I don't have really amazing stories. I, as I look back, I grew up in a working class Italian neighborhood in northern New Jersey in the United States, right? Uh, it was an Italian family, very traditional. A lot of good things, a lot of bad things. One thing, the Italians, and my family anyway, probably not all Italians, but in this community, Italians that were from Hoboken, New Jersey, even I talk with my cousins about it, they always put you down. Like your parents and your aunts and your uncles, even your older cousins, if they were older than you, they put you down. Like like American parents wouldn't. Like it's a peasant mentality because they were peasants. They came from Italy. They were their parents, and you know, came from Italy. And there was that peasant mentality that they had. Like your kids could never rise above you. See, in America, American parents, like people from Midwest and stuff like that, and even like Jews, right? The Jews, they always want their kids to do better than them. Not the Southern Italians that I knew anyway. I'm sure there were other that were more enlightened, but my family wasn't. And a lot of people around us weren't. They put the kids down. Like I remember one time I was in high school and I said, my father and my uncles were there, and I said, I think I might want to go to college. I like English, because I write books. Even right now, I write books. I always liked writing. But I said, I'd like to go to college and maybe be an English teacher. They laughed me to scorn. They, what parent like say, yeah, that's a good. Now, an American parent would say that's a good idea. You're gonna have to work towards it. They laughed. Hey, Liz, a professor, a professor. They said, look, yeah, the professor. He's gonna be a professor. Va stata gita, va no mundo, va va lavora in a barber shop. Stata gita. Shut up and go work in a barber shop. That's what I was told. Keep your mouth shut. Don't even think about school. You're too stupid. You know, the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco, he talks about that. That comedian, if you ever watch him, Sebastian Maniscalco, he said his parents, like other parents, they brag about their kids. Italian parents, how's he doing? He's stupid. He's stupid. I don't know. I think the kid is a little something's wrong. they fucking, they didn't even want me to open up my own barbershop. Go, just do safe things. No, I don't want. No, just go stay. I was working for this freaking guy Angelo. What a jerk off! And the guy was like, that's a whole nother story. But the guy was an idiot. I wasn't happy. Saved my money. I'm going to open up a barbershop. Oh, Maronna, me! You would have thought what the hell I was saying to do. Go stay in your job. You're making money. What are you crazy? You're going to take a risk. Never take a risk. Never do anything. My cousin Dennis even said he wanted to buy himself a Cadillac. He said they beat him down. They just a Cadillac. Who do you think you are? What about just beat him down until he got like a Chevy or something. Anyway, my cousin Paul, who really rose pretty far in the art world and stuff, he got educated. In fact, he actually went to I think he might have went to Oxford in England. Yeah, the kid was really bright. And my first cousin, Paul Quattrochi, and he said, right away, he said he knew that these people, he goes, our family didn't know what they were talking about. He said that early on when he graduated college, local college, and he said, I'm going to go on, I'm going to do this, whatever he said. He gave them his plan. He was telling his parents, he told me his mother and father said, listen, get it into your head, you're just a poor slob like the rest of us, and that's all you'll ever be. And he said, right there, he said, I knew these people don't know what they're talking about. And he moved on to be, quite successful. But I wasn't like that. I believed what they said. When they told me I was shit, I was shit. So when I was a young kid, now growing up in northern New Jersey town, mostly Italian, Irish, and Italian kids, Irish kids. Irish kids didn't like the Italian kids. The Irish were bullies. They were. And you had to fight them or else. I used to run in packs because they had, like, in town, like you had the Sullivans, the Metcalfs. Who else? There was another, the Morans. There was like 10 boys in each family, and they used to run in packs. I remember one time we were playing ball in a vacant lot, and I don't even know which, they might have been from the Sullivans. They just ran, they pushed us, they had me on a guy, just like attacked us and like beat the shit out of us for no reason. They were just like, let's go beat the shit out of the Guineas down a block. We were in this kid, Tony Borghi's lot. His Borghi, Italian kid, his father owned a liquor store in town. They had a very nice house, and they had a nice big lot next to it. So we used to play football in the lot. We were playing football. I guess we were mostly Italian kids. We didn't think about it at the time that we were Italian, but that's what we were. There was me, Nicky Kokoza, Tony Borghi, Donald Banker, Richard Sabatelli, right? So we were playing ball, They just swooped down on us and like beat the shit out of us. That's what they would do. And this is what you had to contend with growing up. So you realize by the time you got into high school that you couldn't take shit from anybody, or else you would have been a friggin' victim. So, basically in high school, a kid was respected by the circle of fear he had around him. Basically, that's the absolute truth. That's the way it was. There was fights almost every day in that school. And this was we're 10 minutes out of Manhattan, northern New Jersey. But it wasn't like a crummy, like, slum. It was a nice town. But like I said, it was mostly Italian, Irish. That's about it, if I can remember. Well, who else? There were Italian kids and Irish kids. Had to be some, there was a couple of Polish kids, I guess. But nothing to maybe, nothing to make any impact on the neighborhood. It was Irish and Italian. And so I came out of that. And I when I was younger, like, you didn't want to be considered a douche. That was the word, douche. Now, a douche was more than a nerd. It was somebody that you actually, like, the girls skeeved, like they were just like friggin' like, they were like fodder for everybody. And there was kids like that. There was this kid, John Sorrentino. They used to make him, like, he used to do anything they said. He was a douche. Douche. They used to make him make believe he was a toilet bowl, make a flushing noise in class. Hey, Sorrentino, do the flushing. And he'd go, like, make believe, just not to get beat up. He would, be the clown. But no girls wanted him or anything, So at the very beginning, I was like that. Like, coming up maybe 6th grade, just when you're starting to get into puberty and stuff. I thought I was shit because of the way my parents taught us that. Like, I remember this girl, Kathy Natoli. She's probably, I'm 68. Maybe she's 80 now, right? But she said she remembers she was, her and our new husband were driving home, and they picked me up, and she says, Vito, how you doing in school? And I said, I'm the stupidest kid in the class. And she said, who told you that? I said, my mother. My mother used to say that to people. How's Vito doing in school? Stupid, stupidest kid in the class. Stupidest kid in the class. So you start feeling like shit about yourself. So and then when you come out of your house and like some fucking other kids that want to pick on you tell you you're shit, you just kind of accept it. Yeah, you're right. I am. I'm shit. But I had one. And I wasn't that great in school either. I couldn't sit still. You know, daydreaming. Really wasn't interested in what was anything. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be there. It was just like I felt like I was in jail. From the day I went in school, in kindergarten or first grade, in the Catholic school, I felt like I was in prison. It was like from the first day all the way up. It was like, well, high school wasn't that bad because I used to like some girls, and I wanted to see those girls every day. Girls started to get to be hot, and you want to look at them, and you don't want to be walking around. So there was shit going on in school, but I never did any work. I never did anything. I used to take study halls. The only class I liked was English, because I used to like to write. And there was this teacher, Mr. DeCandia. He helped me. He used to encourage me to write. And this other teacher too, Mr. Moran, he encouraged me. And I've written 14 books. Has anybody listened? No. But I wasn't educated. I didn't know how to make sentence structure. I didn't know spelling. Even now, I still count on my fingers. Yeah, I'm like a gypsy. Well, supposedly part of my family are gypsies anyway, from Sicily. We were gypsies, so they weren't too educated. So, but I still can't, like if I said 17 and 20, 17 and 6, I'd go 17, I'd go 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. But I wouldn't just be able to click it into my head. I'd have to do this. All right? And I'm not a good speller, but I have the stories. I have these great stories. I'm a great storyteller. So I write these stories, and then my wife, my beautiful wife, God bless her soul, she comes down, she edits. Like she puts this, like I do these long run-on sentences, she edits them for me. And my wife was the making of me because I wasn't really going in a good direction. So I mean, like I was saying, to get back into high school, by the time I got to high school, I had one thing: I could fight. I was I don't know, like my friend John Buscema one time. I said nobody messed with me because I was a good fighter, and he said, I don't know if they thought you were a good fighter or they just thought you were crazy. See, because I'd pick up something, hit you on the head with it. Like after one time, this one kid was messing with me in a lunchroom, and I went up to the thing and I got hot soup and I walked and I threw it in his face. Then I beat the shit out of him. So they thought I was a little nuts, you know. And I had to make them think that. I had to make them think that to leave me alone. I wasn't a big kid. Christ's sake, I was 16 years old. I must have been 120 pounds maybe. I was a skinny kid. But I used to fight. I used to learn, like I used to punch the bag. My father taught me how to fight. My father was a tough guy. My father, he ran a club in Hoboken. My father. They had gambling, all illegal back in the day. They just paid the cops off. He had slot machines, crap games. So he was Willie Quack. He was a tough guy. So he taught me like all these dirty moves. Like when you're talking to somebody, they go, you say, listen, dude, and you take your fingers and flick it in their eye. Like you hit him in the eyes. So he goes, hey, boo, pow, you hit him in the eye, then you hit him with an elbow. All these like things to put a coin on the back of your hat, so you hit somebody in the head with it. All these like, oh, they used to do all kind of shit, these guys in the back room at a club. These Italian guys used to have like these handkerchiefs, like these, I guess they were like silk handkerchiefs, but they have like a washer sewn in the very tip of one. They stuff it up their sleeve. And they were playing cards. If somebody got out of hand, they would grab the end of that thing and they'd pull it. And they'd snap that wash and hit him in the face with it. All these little tricks that I learned. So when I went into school, they thought I was nuts. They left me alone. But it wasn't good. I was always getting into fights because there were guys who weren't going to leave you alone. So you had to fight. You had to fight. You couldn't. You had to. Win, lose, or draw, you had to fight. There was this guy Steven Speranza beat the shit out of me. He we were coming out of the shower in gym, and he goes to me, he goes, "Hey, Kutrowski, blow me." But he was saying it as like, but Bell, he's calling you a fag, right? He's calling you a fag, right? This is 1966. There was no like, openness. You were a fag. That was, I mean, you got the shit kicked out of you. So he walks by. He goes, "Hey, blow!" He goes, "Blow him." So I punched him. So he said, punched him. His eye swelled up. He was a big kid. I was in ninth grade. He was in the 11th grade. I was 15. He was like 17, almost 18 years old. He might have been a senior. No, he wasn't a senior. I think he was in the 11th grade. I was in the ninth grade, or I was in the 8th grade. I might have been in the 8th grade. Because the grammar school, up to 7th and 8th grade was in with the high school. Because it was like a community. They bunched everybody together. So you had these kids 14 years old, like I was 14. I was in with high school kids. He was a big kid. He was a basketball player. So I punched him because he said, "Blow me." So I punched him. And so anyway, he goes, "All right." He goes, "We're going to fight outside after school." So everybody used to fight behind the library. Because they couldn't see it. There was these bushes and hedges and a wall. Cops couldn't see you. So that's where everybody had to fight. And so I said, "All right, behind the library." So he comes up to me. He says, "Listen," he goes, "let's not go behind the library. I don't want everybody watching us. Let's just go behind the bleachers." So we're walking. Anyway, he beat the shit out of me. Broke my nose, blackened my eye, knocked the shit out of me. I lost. I got the shit kicked out of me. Then I beat up other guys. This other kid, this Polish kid, Kevin Kapusta. And we were coming up for gym, and somebody just punched me in the kidney for no reason. So I didn't know who did it. So I said, "Who punched me in the kidney?" I was asking everybody who did it. So there's this kid, Kevin Kapusta. Now, unbeknownst to me from his neighborhood, because there was a few different neighborhoods, we went all into the same school. His neighborhood, he was quite feared. Big, strong Polish kid. Kapusta means cabbage in Polish. I didn't know that at the time. I just know that now. But his name was Kevin Kapusta. Turned out to be a good person as he grew up. But at the time, he was like, feeling his oats. Strong kid. So I was saying, somebody punched me in the kidney coming up the stairs into the gym. So I was asking everybody, who punched me? Who punched me in the back? Who punched me? So one kid said, Kapusta did it. So he was playing basketball, and I was on the sidelines, and I don't know what the hell I said to him. I was saying, I don't know. I remember calling something, like insulting him or something. So he goes, "Shut up, Kutrowski." So I go, I don't know what I said. I forgot. But I said something back to him. So he comes and I go, "Don't put your hands on me." So he says, "I told you to shut up." And he pushes me. I punched him right in the face, and I broke his nose. The blood shot out all over the place. So they took him away. And about 10 minutes later, the vice principal, Mr. Mallory, he comes walking down. "Get over here, you." Grabs me by the arm, takes me down to the nurse. Kapusta's sitting there in a chair. His blood all over his shirt. He goes, "Look what you did to him." I start laughing. "You think it's funny? Get out." I got suspended for like 2 weeks from school. Right? So, I don't know, a while later, who knows, time goes so fast when you're young. I was 14 years old, 15, right? I don't think I was 15. I think I was 14. Because I was walking with this kid, Billy White. And he was a tough kid. We used to fight all the time, but we were still friends, but we used to fight. When you're that young, sometimes, other kids wrestle. He used to beat me up all the time. Couldn't beat him. Couldn't beat him. He was just, Irish kid, Billy White. We were friends, so. And we're walking, and we walked into their neighborhood. So they were hanging out by the candy store, Al Gazzini's candy store on a corner. And they said something to us as we passed. There was like 4 of them, of their crew, And they said something to us. So I went like this. I threw my finger up. I went like that. So they went, "What?" And they like ran after us. And they surrounded us. So the one kid goes, "Aren't you the kid that broke Kapusta's nose?" So I said, "Yeah." And they all went, "Whoa, shit." And they backed off from us. Now, there was like five of them, and there was two of us. They had us surrounded, but the fact that I had broke this kid Kapustas' nose scared them. So see, I said, people were respected by the circle of fear they had around them. So that impregnated in me, in my mind, the idea that I was supposed to fight. And that was the only thing I was respected for. I wasn't respected for my academic achievement. I wasn't really respected too much in my house or my family. They thought I was a bullshit artist because I used to make up stories. I used to tell, I used to like exaggerate. Like I said, you see how I'm talking? I'm a storyteller. I used to tell stories. A lot of times when you tell stories, even if they're true, people think they're bullshit. There's stuff that I could tell that I did when I was in Sicily that you would think if I told you, you'd say he's full of shit. But they're true. But you can't. There's certain things you can't tell people, right? Like I have my cousin Paul, the one who was rich. I mentioned him before. He actually knew the Castro, like Fidel Castro's family, and he helped them launder their money. And he had cigars that were from Castro's private stock, right? Fidel Castro's private. He gave me one. So I was in my town here. There was a place called Joe's. The guy Nick Origema owned it. He was another Bapael from Hoboken. He killed somebody in Hoboken, got out of jail, opened up a bar. And I'm sitting there in a bar, and at the time you could smoke. And I'm smoking this, that was one of actually Castro's cigars. Somebody goes to me, that's a nice looking cigar. I said, yeah, it is. Now, if I would have, I didn't say anything more, but if I would have said to him, this is actually from Castro, you think they would have believed me? They thought this guy's full of shit. So it's better sometimes you keep your mouth shut, But however, I regress. Or I digress. Is that the word? Digress? Regress? I digress, not regress. See what I'm talking about? I digress. I go back. So here I am in high school, getting in trouble all the time for fighting, getting suspended for fighting. That was it. I mean, I didn't do any real crime. It was always fighting, because that's where I got my kudos from. That's what people respected me for. So that's what I did. And I got into martial arts. I was like 16 years old. After that, Kid Speranza beat me up. There was a martial arts school, jiu-jitsu at the time. There was no kung fu. This was like 1968. There was jiu-jitsu school, North Jersey Jiu-Jitsu Club, Sensei Bob Long. So I went there. I wanted to go, but this guy was tough. This guy really taught you. This wasn't like a tournament karate. This guy taught you how to fight, real, street jiu-jitsu. He was good, and he was an amazing martial artist. God rest his soul. He passed away now. And he, I didn't have the money at the time. I think it was, I don't know, it might have been $50 a month. I didn't have the money, but I wanted. So I asked my father. Now, that's one thing my father and my uncles, they always talked about fighting. Fighting was the big thing with them. Who they could beat up in the neighborhood. Always talk fighting stories. Around the table about how they had this guy had a fight, this guy threw the guy off a building. I swear to God, while other people talked about God or something like that, my family talked about that these fight stories and stuff all the time. So when they realized I was a good fighter, even within my family, they started respecting me. I started to tell fight stories too. They liked it. So my father respected the fighting. So he said $50 a month. My father wouldn't go for ice. Well, he grew up during the Depression and Italian to begin with. And, they're cheap as hell. So $50 a month. What? But I really wanted it. And I said, Dad, I don't ever want to get beat up like they beat me up again. This kid beat the shit out of me. And he was older than me, had big hands. But so I wanted to take this jiu-jitsu from. So my father goes, I tell you what, go get a job. I was like 16 now, at the time, 15. Go get a job. Pay for it for yourself for 1 year. He said, if you stick with it for that 1 year, I'll pay the rest for you. I just don't want, I don't want it to just a fad and then, I lay out this money and you quit. So I got a job in a bakery, Mills Bakery. 2 German guys owned it, Ray and Rudy. And I worked in the bakery at night. I cleaned up the bakery at night. Cleaned it up really good. And they paid me. And then I had the money to go to this jiu-jitsu school. And I stayed for the year. I made blue belt. It was blue belt, green belt, brown belt, black belt. I went all the way up at that time to brown belt. And then I was 17. I was done with the area, the family that I was with, and my cousins, just the whole North Jersey bullshit. I was done. And there was a girl I really liked, and I was really like in love with her. As a kid would be in love, She wanted nothing to do with me. One guy said one time, you want to go out with Vito Quattrochi? And she went, Vito Quattrochi? She goes, I'm not even going to answer you. Who the fuck is the? What, the guy who's always in trouble? The guy who gets in all the fights and shit? Anyway, I wanted out. So I joined the Army. 17 years old. Got my parents. I wanted to go in the Marines. But my mother said, if you go in the Marines, they'll send you to Vietnam. So I'm not going to sign for the Marines. The Marines always fight. I'm not going to do that. So I said, well, how about the Army? She talked to the recruiter, and the guy said, well, she goes, he's not going to go to Vietnam, is he? Because I needed my parents' signature. He said, I can't guarantee where he goes. Anyway, they signed for me. I begged them, please sign. I want to go. So I went in. 17 years old, I went in the Army. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, I'm out of the Army. Went to Vietnam. Got stationed in Germany. And the first thing I do is find a martial arts school in Germany. And this guy's name was Wolfgang. He was on Kaiserstrasse in Aschaffenburg, Germany. Wolfgang, and he taught Terrorkampf, which translated as terror fighting. And supposedly it was a German commando art. So I signed up there and I started working out there with these German guys. And, advanced my martial art thing. And then they put me as a postal guard. I was in Germany as a guard, a postal guard. We used to go from Aschaffenburg to Frankfurt on the mail truck, and I would have the registered mail and a 45, and I would sit in the truck with it. Then we'd unload the mail in Frankfurt, pick up the registered mail in Frankfurt, bring it back to Aschaffenburg. And that's what I did. And at night, they would lock me in the post office, and with the gun, with the 45 caliber, and that's what I did. I stayed there all night. And I was fuck up. I was playing with the 45 one night because I'm locked in the post office it was from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 10, 11 hours until the morning when they came in. Then I would take the run down to Frankfurt, come back. Then I was off until I came back for the rest of the second run. And then they locked me in again for the night. That's what I did. So one time I was playing around with the gun and the 45 went off, made a hole in the wall. Blew a hole in the wall. I had to call up my sergeant. Sergeant Reap, he was at the NCO club. I said, the 45 went off. What? He goes, come right over. You fucking idiot. You're lucky I have more ammunition because you had to account for the ammunition from the arms room. You're lucky I have some extra 45 bullets, you idiot. So then they started calling me Billy. the rebels in the unit. Because I was going, okay, Billy. I like Billy the Kid shit, you know? So that was that, and I didn't want to be there either, and I got in a fucking few scuffles with some of the guys, the rednecks. They were strong boys, boy. And let me tell you something, they could have took me and ripped my head off, but they didn't know how to fight. They were more of a wrestling. They used to open up and come like this, and you know me, I was into martial arts quite a bit, and I was able to take care of them. There was this one guy, Buck Hickson, and he came in from the 7th Engineers. He was TDY, a temporary duty with this postal unit I was with, AGC. I used to say Attack Gunnery Crew, but that's not what it was. It was the Adjutant General Corps. We used to call it, not only me, the guys used to call it, we're from the Attack Gunnery Crew. Sounded, more macho, it's like the Adjutant General Corps. We worked in the post. That's my job, was a guard. I was a postal guard. I got pictures of myself on the truck with the 45. I felt cool with the 45 and the registered mail. I wanted to go to Vietnam. So anyway, we had this new lieutenant comes in, had been a captain in another thing, but something happened, and now he was a lieutenant. John P. Schubert, and he didn't like me because, well, in retrospect, because I was a fuck up. I didn't want to do anything. I don't know. I just got this fucking attitude that I didn't want to do anything. I was a fucking wise guy, fucking North Jersey, Guinea, Italian kid attitude. I didn't want to do anything. And I was part of a unit. So like this, I just wanted to do what I did, So then he wanted me to go in the back room and help sort out the mail. And, but no, I'm a postal guard. That's it. But I was wrong. So I had a lot of trouble. I had a lot of fights. I had a few fights, not a lot of fights. There was a lot of racial tension in Germany back in that time. The blacks, they separated themselves from the white soldiers, and they had their own bars. And we had this one kid, his name was Harrison. I think he was from California. He was looking for this one black guy that was in our unit. We used to call him Moose, and he was a black bar. And we just walked into the black bar. This was on Kaiserstrasse in Aschaffenburg. He just walks in and goes, "Is Moose there?" And they go, "No, motherfucker." And they beat the shit out of him. And he actually lost one of his testicles. They beat him up really bad. And it was a lot of racial tension. One time I saw this one guy getting the shit kicked out of him. There was like 6 blacks around him. There was this white guy on the ground. They were kicking him. So one thing about blacks, if you get on the ground, they all jump on you and they start kicking you and shit. Like they all want to get a shot in at you. So I'm watching this happen. They turn, they look towards me. So I start a run. And I'm running up there. We had a 4 or 5 floor concern. So this is like 4 or 5 stories. They were called concerns. So I'm running up this I'm running up 2 steps at a time, 3 steps at a time. But so are these guys. These are these black soldiers. They're running after me. So I overshoot my floor where my room was. And I get to the top of the roof. There's nowhere to go. The only thing for me to do is go out onto the roof. But I'm like 4 or 5 stories up. And those were slate tiles. So I'm afraid to go out the window. But I'm afraid that they're going to... I'm cornered. They passed. I guess they knew that nobody would go up to that top floor. They ran past it. And they got some guy in a bathroom. Some guy was taking a piss. They must have thought it was me. And they beat the shit out of this guy. So those are the things that we dealt with. It was almost like living in the ghetto in Germany at that time. This was during the Vietnam War. So I wanted out of there.